Hi, my name is Paul Castro. I'm Paulcastro. I'm the father of David Castro, who died July 6th, 2021, as a result of Mr. Williams' actions.
How are you feeling today?
It's been 18 months and 2 weeks. This is the first time I've felt a little bit of peace. I want to start off by thanking the DA's office. I want to thank DA Hogg, Mr. Mitchum. I want to thank ADA Harvey, who's behind me, ADA Maroon, who's behind me, who've been working on the case since the beginning. I want to thank Chief Finner and the Houston Police Department for all the work they did. His detectives did a phenomenal job assembling a good case, one that resulted in the defendant taking the plea. And I especially want to thank the City of Houston. I want to thank Crime Stoppers. Over 100 tips came in when this case happened. It was unusual for a person who is a road rage shooter to wind up in prison. And that only happened because the City of Houston came together. They heard David's story, the horror of it, and they wanted to do something to make the city a little better. I want to state for everybody that the family is fully behind the plea agreement that happened today. We're thankful that it happened, be able to avoid having to come up and relive the whole thing all over again. We definitely didn't want to have to bring my other son to the possibly coming to the witness stand. And there's a price tag in that we measured in years, and we decided this was a good agreement. And so we're very thankful that all parties were able to come to agreement and make the city a little bit safer tonight by having Mr. Williams behind bars.
What was it like for you to sit up there and to address him and say your piece this morning?
Yeah, so when I first heard that such a thing was possible, I've been fantasizing about different ways to do it. You know, they show on the news when people lose it and yell and scream, and I had that. I wanted to do that. You know, I wanted to do a lot of things, but I realized that none of that's going to bring my son back. And so what it felt like was just this deep, deep, immeasurable sense of pain and sadness at knowing that no matter what I said, I don't know if it landed with him. I don't know how he is as a person, but I know that I needed him to know that night he caused terror in my two sons, and one of them didn't make it. And I needed him. I hope he dreams that every night for the next however many years he lives, because every night I go to bed with that image in my head.
How do you hope that this kind of sends a message to people who, there's other road rage incidents that haven't, yet made it this far?
Yeah, so what I hope people understand is when you're driving and you get cut off by someone or someone acts like a jerk, there's no one in that car, right? All we see is a car, and we get mad at the car. There's no one in that car. And if people could just depersonalize these little stupid things that happen all the time and just realize, I don't know what's going on with that person. Maybe they're rushing because they got an emergency call and they have to go to the hospital. Or maybe they're just a 18-year-old jerk who doesn't know how to drive yet. It doesn't matter. What I hope is by sharing this story, two things happen. One is when we see aggressive behaviors on the road, HPD, Sheriff's Department steps in, pulls those people over. That behavior's not okay. Secondly, that when that person feels that rage boil up, they think about people like my son and other people. Reverend Mouton, who was murdered, earlier. These cases just keep happening over and over again, where they're mad at a car and not the person, the story, the mother, the father, the child that's actually in that car. And what I hope is the city comes together and realizes when something like that happens and you hear something, you say something, and you report these people and get them off our streets, because if they've done it once, they'll do it again. And our community deserves better. And I'm thankful again that everybody came together. And I hope this, we've seen a decrease in some of the incidents. It's still happening, but it's a decrease, and I'm hoping that part of the reason for that is people remember this story and they say to themselves, I don't want to be a child killer. I don't want to shoot into a vehicle and accidentally hit a child in the back seat in the car seat, or a 17-year-old National Merit Scholar, or shoot the person I'm aiming at and wind up hitting a reverend who was just trying to get home. None of those are okay. All of those lives are equally precious. David was just extra precious to me.
What happens next for you guys? What's the healing? Do you think that this is kind of some kind of closure for you guys?
It's kind of closure. I mean, there's really nothing next. Right now, the big next is grieve, hug people close to us, and tomorrow I'll probably be at work.
You said you don't forgive him.
Correct.
Why?
So I did a study on what forgiveness is, and forgiveness has four parts. The first part is what happened to me was wrong. This was wrong. The second thing is the person who did it knew better. He knew better. The third thing is I didn't deserve it. So if those three things are true, it requires an apology. He's never apologized. Without an apology, there comes no forgiveness. But even if he did forget, even if he did apologize and if he owned it, I'd have to think about it, because the fourth judgment is called resentment. And resentment, when a person apologizes, what they're asking for from the person they're apologizing to is, I want you to bear the weight that's unbearable, and I want you to take the responsibility from me. And so what Mr. Williams would be doing in that case is turning to me and saying, Paul, I stole your son that can never be repaid, and I'm asking for forgiveness. In exchange for that, you have to bear this on your own, but it starts with an apology. And he's never apologized, therefore I'm not going to forgive him.
Great, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.